First of all, thank you to everyone for joining us today, because I know that it's a beautiful day outside, and of course, it might be tricky to be inside again. And hopefully, who knows? Maybe we will be able to meet live for the networking event of Christmas and to celebrate some real life nibbles and drinks. Who knows? But for the moment, welcome everyone to our fourth anniversary. And before I start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we are all here today. And I would like to acknowledge that I'm calling on from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin nations. And I would also like to invite everyone to reflect on the owners of their land, from which sovereignty was never ceded. And welcome everyone today. I'd like to remember everyone, of course, to also keep your microphone muted unless you have to talk or give a talk later, or you would like to ask a question. There is always the chat as well to ask for questions. And for if there are any new people in the crowd that have never been to one of our events, I would like to remind briefly what is and what are the Our Ladies and what we stand for. So the Our Ladies, the Our Ladies Melbourne is also part of this worldwide group, which is part of the Our Ladies Global. And the aim is to promote gender diversity within the art community. And in particular, we try to do that via meetups and mentorship and event. And we also love to do it within a friendly and safe environment. So if in any case, in any time, either online or during events online or live, you experience any unwanted behavior from any one of our members or during one of our meetups, please tell us either by email, or you can contact us by Twitter or Facebook, or any way you like. In terms of who we are, so the Our Ladies Melbourne were founded in 2016, and we were the first programming community for women and supporters in Australia. And after that, we have now 5 or maybe more other communities which started in Australia as well. Last year, we also became a registered not-for-profit, which might not mean too much for you, but it's really important for us because it makes it easier sometimes to get grants or to apply for funding. And of course, this year was maybe a cheaper year than other times because we hosted a lot of our events online. We still hope to get grants and in order to sponsor future conferences or future events, and to keep going with the work that we have done so far. Just to give a brief summary of the year so far. So we celebrated our last birthday, October 2019, just before Hadley came to Melbourne in November. And these are the last 2 live events that we held, one in November last year when Hadley told us about design in data science. And there was a huge crowd. It was a great event. And I hope we can host some of those events again soon. We had a break over Christmas, and after the networking event in December, we hosted then a Tidy Tuesday in February. That was our last live event, if I recall correctly, because then in March, COVID happened. But of course, like COVID came, but we still managed to remain. And after a little break, we still managed to keep going with more events online. And in particular, we managed to host 9 events overall. We had 5 seminars. One was in between a seminar and a workshop, where one of our committee members, Dai, told us through our Markdown and how to get started with it. We also had, apart from the Christmas event, we also had 2 personal development event, where in one case, Joe Evans gave a fabulous and really entertaining public speaking workshops. And in October, Tyler told our member how to maybe better write their CV and how to sell and how to sort of push for your skills and your strength when you apply for jobs. These are the faces of all our speakers for the year, starting with Hadley and ending up with Talia. We had a variety of different topics from sport analytics in football with Alice to our markdown, as I said, with Dai, who's one of our committee members. Jessica Casa told us about her recent work in cluster analysis, and in I think in May, Virginia Liu told us about her package, our package, where she simulate binocular visual fields. So a lot of different topics. And we always remind for next year, if you want to give a workshop, so you want to give a talk, we're always looking for people as well to keep the seminars and workshops going. You can find all of our recordings and all the talks and materials online. We keep track of all the links for all the repository online on GitHub. And of course, if you miss our events, we try to keep all the recordings. We might have missed some this year, but we have all our recordings on YouTube as well. And we still want to thank you a lot, all of our sponsors. Of course, even though this year was a cheaper year for all of us, we still needed support for a few things, and we still hope to get the support of these sponsors in the future as well. And a big thank you as well to all of the committee members, in particular to our president Serish, who brought us through this slightly more challenging year. And I also would like to remind that we had 2 new committee members this year, Yuri and Dai, who joined pretty much during COVID. So we were never able to meet as a committee live all together, but I hope we can do that soon. And again, you can find us in all different channels: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Meetup. And we always announce and share our tips and events in all of these channels. So welcome to the event today. So we would like to start with, well, first of all, saying to all of us, happy birthday. We will raise our glasses and cheers after we had the short talks. And I would like to share with you how the event is going to run tonight. So we have a lot of things in plan. First of all, we would like to start with some short talks. And I'm going to now explain how that works. We might have 5 or 6 depending on the time, because we are aiming more or less by 6:20 to draft some winners and then grab a glass of wine or beer or juice, whatever you want to cheer with, and then take a photo all together to celebrate this year, which has gone, and we still managed to keep going as a team. And then we will switch all together to a different platform, which is called AirMeet, which I tried previously with the Statistical Society of Australia. And I think it allows us to have a pretty nice way of network with each other online, rather than going into breakout rooms, which sometimes might be a little bit more awkward. So let's see how that's gonna work out, but I'm gonna give you more instructions soon. So I'm gonna start by introducing how we're gonna run the talks. So I'm going to use a very, very simple, I'm just going to use the sample function in R to sample a random order from the people who submitted a talk. And so the random sample will tell us who's going to talk and the order. When it's your turn, I would like to introduce yourself to our community. So I'm going to share all the tips that everyone has submitted. So you don't need to share any screen, and you don't need to share any screen. I'm going to share everything, and I'm going to point to the part of the website where your tip is. Before you start introducing your tip, it will be good if you can introduce yourself, like your name, what you do, how you use R or you don't use R, or anything else you'd like us to know. And then, of course, like, talk us through your tip. And more or less, we aim for 3-5 minutes per person, so that we can have a few people going through. So this is a very simple talk selector. I put all the talk names here. Is Adele present tonight? I think maybe she wasn't able to make it.
Yes, that's right.
I'll remove it from the list. And I think everyone else should be ready. So these are the people who submitted a talk. And I'm going to sample some speakers. Oh, can you see them here?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So well, I've selected myself, but I'll be brief. And if we can, maybe we can also give the talk to other people. But awesome. So this is I'm going to put it in the chat so we can remember. Okay, so the first up for tonight is Zainab. Zainab is not present. Okay, then I don't want to go myself straight away. I've just talked for 10 minutes. Maybe then I will ask to Emmy if Emmy would like to share.
When I submitted this, I didn't realize I was supposed to talk, so there's nothing prepared in terms of actual preparation. That was probably me. I didn't read it carefully. So hi, everybody. I'm Emmy, and I'm a lecturer in statistics at Monash University. I was previously in Sydney, and I have moved to Melbourne just beginning the year before pandemic actually started. So I'm hoping that, you know, we have a live event again so I can see you all. So this is just a really a quick thing, but so it's a little tip per se for using ggplot2. And let's say, like, you know, your big thing that you want to do is that you want to actually do some kind of comparison. And of course, it's good to do some kind of plots for that. And if you have actually a lot of data with what you want to compare, you could actually facet by that particular comparison. So you can see on the third line, so first of all, the data set here is like looking at just the chick weights over time. And each line corresponds to like a single chick. And then they're given like 4 different types of diet. So here on the third line, facet wrap diet actually will wrap it around according to different diets. Now, maybe this here so far is nothing that special, but the additional tip I wanted to give is adding like a shadow of all the data. And if you could start scrolling down, Anna. So here what happens is that like when you facet according to each one of the diets, you kind of lose the comparison with respect to all the other data because it's only a subset of the data. But it might actually help you to know how they are in terms of relation to others. So if you want to add this like shadow effect, which is the gray lines in each of the facets, all you need to do is add a single line in ggplot. And the trick is actually all in the second line where you see geom line, and I take the data. I say the color of the line should be gray, but here the key is to drop the variable that you are faceting. So here I do minus diet in order to drop that from the original data set. And then what happens under the hood with ggplot is that because there is no faceting variable associated with the data, they just copy across all the different facets. So that's my tip.
That's a great tip. Thanks. I was about to do the same thing, and I was like struggling. Oh, now I have a clue. Thanks.
It's also one line as well, so very useful.
Great.
That's awesome. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you a lot. So the next one will be me. I mean, I'll go, so then I'll get out of the way. But yeah, I'm gonna share my tip. I actually put 2. Let me see, where are mine? I put 2, one with per and one with mute. I think I'll go with this one, per. So my name is Anna, as you might already know, and I'm currently a data scientist in a consulting company called Eliza in Melbourne. And if you'd like to know more about what I do, I did a PhD in bioinformatics, in statistical bioinformatics, and then I switched to consulting around January. If you'd like to know more about the company, what I do day to day, what it is to work for a consulting, I'm happy to chat with you during the networking later on. And for tonight, so my tip is about per and running several linear models by group in R. So I did that I had to come up, I found that out recently when I was helping my sister with her master thesis. So she was doing this COVID research and how the lockdown in Italy has affected sport and how much people do physical activity in lockdown and how they've changed their habits. So she ran this big survey and these questionnaires, and that was kind of the first time after a long time of working in bioinformatics that I had to and then I had to get down again and run some linear models on some tabular data, which was kind of exciting for me. And I've realized that there is so many things that I could have learned. And the first tip that I must say is that, so normally what I try to do, if I can see that there is a problem that I can solve in a new way that I haven't tried before, instead of like my normal lazy way, then I will try to learn that way. And I knew that this would have helped me to run a lot of different models by groups. And in this example, I'm not showing my sister's data because they were sensitive, but I'm pretty much showing you what happened, what I figured, what I realized I could do using the New York City flight dataset. So this is just a dataset available in R, which contains a lot of different flight arrival time, departure time, the plane type, and so on. And I'm going to select I'm going to do a very useless, meaningless model, but I'm going to select this column, which is arrival time, departure time, arrival delay, and the carrier, which I suppose is like the plane. And what I want to do is I want to fit a lot of linear models like this. So this is the standard way in which I will run a linear model. I want to fit the arrival time as a function of departure and delay. But then I also want to fit it by carrier. So I want to fit it by group. So I want to fit a lot of linear models by group. And my standard way would have been maybe using a for loop or a supply or other things. And what I found out is that I could do in this very neat and efficient way using the per package. So what I'm doing here is that I'm taking the flight data set. Again, I'm selecting the departure, the columns that I need. I'm grouping by carrier, which is the variable that I want to run my model for. And then I'm using this function nest. So the way in which I understood nest is just like a sort of like nest is sort of chunking your data by the group that you want to, pretty much is like squishing your data by group so that what you see is not the whole expanded data set, but a compacted version by your group of interest. And then this example shows what I mean. So what I did, I've used my nest, and then I created one new column, which is called fit, where again, using per, I'm pretty much running a linear model on each segment, on each chunk of the data, which comes from one of the nested part of the data frame. So this will fit linear models for every part of the data frame. And then I will create a new column, which is result fit, which will extract from fit, it will extract the confidence interval. And this will be the result, which is a table, which has the carrier, which is the variable I nested for. The data is compacted into this table, which you don't see openly. Then I've got a linear model column for the fit object and a result. If I want to expand and see the results, then one way is to do in this way, for example. So I take the models and by using the unnest function. So you provide the result fit column. In this case, I wanted to see the confidence interval of my models. And by unnesting this column, now I get 3 rows per carrier. Well, the 3 rows will be the confidence interval for my intercept and the 2 coefficient for the departure time and the delay. Departure time and the delay. So in this way, I've run, I don't know how many different models by carrier, and I can see all the results already summarized in a nice table all together. So I was really happy with that. So that's my tip, and I will let you read the other tip later on. Thank you. So next up will be Serish.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So that's the right part I would like to go through. First, a bit about myself. So I'm Sehrish. I am team member of Our Ladies Melbourne, and I work as a bioinformatics scientist at the University of Melbourne Centre for Cancer Research. I have a PhD in bioinformatics as well from the computer science school. So you could imagine it was more towards the computer science side. And what I would like to share with you all today is the first thing I was really curious about when I started working in the cancer research data, which is more, which I should say bigger because it's human genome and confidential data. So the problem I faced was, how do we run our markdown code outside our studio? So we all know our studio has a nice, knit button, you could run the code and so on. But I was more keen on, for example, running the code via CLI, command line interface, for example, on a clustered environment, just because I don't want to download bigger data set onto my local machine, or simply on an environment where we don't have a typical RStudio application. So how would you do that? So what is the recommended practice? That's the thing I learned during that time, and I thought it could be useful to other people as well. So I would share it. So the recommended best practice for this is via Conda. Pretty sure if you have been working with programming languages, you would know what Conda is. Conda is a universal package, dependency and environment manager for any language. It doesn't have to be R, it could be any language. If you are keen towards dependency or environment managing, Conda is the way forward. So even via Conda, we see that there are typically a couple ways, which are the first two bullet points to create Conda environments. The first is simply via command line interface, say, create my Conda environment and then manually install all packages via, Conda install or Conda install here, Conda install whatever package you want to work in. Or the best practice, which I'm going to share, is via environment file. So essentially, you would create a file that dictates what are the dependencies of your code. That file is a simple YAML syntax, which is consisting of first name of your Conda environment. So in the highlighted box, you would say name, I named it how are you, simply just to go with today. Then you list channels. So where do you want to download the packages from? There are different channels that people tend to upload their packages to. These are actually listed according to the way you want the preference to be. So defaults is the preference here, then BioConda, and then Conda-Forge in this example. And then simply dependencies. These are all the packages that you are going to use in your code. For example, you could also say r-base 3.4, 3.7, 3.9, 4, whichever version you think your code is going to work with. So you can literally mark down the dependencies to the package version as well. So once you have your YAML file, which is your environment, all you do is tell Conda to use that environment file by a very simple command, create part2 Conda environment, and then your YAML file. Third step is activate your environment via Conda activate how are you. And Anna, if you go down a little bit, that is scroll down. Cool. And then the fourth and the final, which is your step to run on the command line, is you would say R script -e. -e stands for I'm going to tell you an expression which indicates which R markdown file to run, and that would run the R script via R markdown. How does it run it? Because I have R as a dependency, you would see I have a pandoc as a dependency, you would see I have R markdown as a dependency. So that means I'm not manually downloading any of the packages. The YAML file has already taken care of it. All I had to do was tell our script to run my markdown file. And if you can please open the example script in 5th file. So I have this on the GitHub, on my personal GitHub, just as an example, because usually we write code is we would have parameters. So you would ask, okay, run the code on XYZ parameters, your data, your values, or whatever data you want to run it on. So if your params has an input parameters, and I'll go back, please. You can even tell that to the R script. So you would say R markdown render my script, which is RMD. Parameters are whatever directory and then file or whichever parameters you want to use. And that's the way you would run it and get the results on a CLI. Very quickly, what are the advantages? I know I'm going over time, but very quickly, I really care about reproducibility. I did a whole PhD on it in computer science. So ability to perform the analysis multiple times using same code without making any changes, and you can pass it on to other people. Portability, being able to move code from one machine to another. If I go give you my code, or you want to run the code on a different environment, Linux, Mac, and so on, you should be able to do it. This offers you flexibility as well. For example, if you want to simply see what happens if I use our version 4 now because 4 is out, you could change the dependencies and run your code again. So these are the advantages that I see running code via CLI, and that's why I would like to use it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Serish. Yeah, this is really useful. I definitely encountered this problem in the past. Thank you. And maybe in the meantime, we can go with you, Di.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to go with your ones. Okay, thank you. Now we have Diane Cook presenting.
Hi, everyone. Just a little about me. I'm a professor at Monash University. I've been here for about 5 years now. It's been great. And it's been fantastic being involved in Our Ladies all this time. So thanks for doing all the organization that you've done. It's just lovely to be in an environment where we've got such a great group. So my tip for today is quite lengthy if you look at the code, but there's just a few simple things that I'm going to work you through. So maybe we can scroll down and look at the plots first. What I've done is create a choropleth map, that's the first one, of the COVID cases in Victoria. Now we're all free, we can happily look at this and not get depressed. So you can get the counts for the COVID cases from one site, and I've got LGA polygons from an R package, OzMaps. And now let's scroll down a little bit further. We can turn that into a cartogram, and a cartogram. So the problem with the choropleth map is everything's jam-packed into a tiny little area, so it's hard to see inside of Melbourne. This is a cartogram. It looks really weird. If you haven't seen one before, it's really weird. But basically what a cartogram does is warp the polygons to match population sizes, would be one variable that we might use. And so this is actually the population warped map of Victoria. And I really learned there's a lot of difference in the population size from the local government areas in Victoria. So that's what blows Melbourne out to be much bigger, is that we have a lot more population in those areas. So that now in this view, you can see the parts of Melbourne that were more affected than others. And also I think you can see Colac. Let's scroll down one more. Last plot in here is a hexagon tile map, which is made by a student at Monash in the package. And that does a hexagon tile for the geographic area. So everything's equal area, it's not using population, but it does have the effect of pushing out the Melbourne area so we can see the incidents there. Right, let me work you through the couple of tough parts for this. So there's 3 data sets that you need. Maybe we can go back to the top of the code. There's a lot of code here, but there's 3 data sets. You need the COVID cases. Yep, and then you need the LGA polygons. And that comes from, that is a data set that's in the OzMaps package. So it's already compiled for us. We don't need to worry about that. And then the 3rd data set is the population data. And in a way, this is the worst. If you go down to the cartogram, you'll see the population data. I actually included the data that we needed in here so that we didn't have to go back to the Excel spreadsheet, but you can go get an Excel spreadsheet from the Vic government website. And if you look at that Excel spreadsheet, it's a typical government Excel spreadsheet. It's just an absolute mess with lots and lots of crap in it, and you have to extract the pieces that you need. So those 3 data sets, can we go back to the top then? Now, the first tough part is that you need to join the COVID data with the map data. And that's, well, actually, there was a couple of things in the COVID data that so each column corresponded to a local government area. And some of those columns, they'd entered a null, actually text instead of 0. And then there's a whole lot of missings as well. So we need to fix those and convert any nulls back to 0 and make it numeric so that all of our data is numeric. Then you need to turn it into long form so that you've got 3 columns. One of them is your date, another one is your LGA name, and the third one is the count for COVID. Now, the next thing is a tough one, is joining your COVID data to your LGA data. And because the COVID data only has Victorian LGA names as the key to link the 2 areas, those names ideally are unique. Well, they're not. LGA names, there's 3 LGA names in Victoria that are the same as LGA names in the rest of the country. And because the AusMaps data has all the LGAs and the way that they've coded the name of the LGA, you can see some example here, Latrobe brackets M bracket Tas. Well, I've got 3 variables here in one text string. You need to strip those out, and then you need to, what I've done is I've just done a text mangle of the names that are not Victorian names. So Latrobe from Tasmania, I just called Latrobe M. Kingston from South Australia, I called Kingston SA. And Bayside from God knows what state, but it's A is some code for the type of LGA it is. I just named Bayside A. All right, so now the names are different. This is always so ugly working with spatial data. And then the next regular expression is nasty. It just makes any name that's got those parentheses and stuff to strip out everything but the name. And then one more thing, Colac Otway had a hyphen in one data set and no hyphen in the other. I had to fix that. So that always is the case when you're trying to join spatial data with measured variables. And generally the way I find that is to do an anti-join. So I do an anti-join of the 2 data sets in order to get the connections. It would be nice if all data sets used unique IDs, but measured variables often don't even bother to do unique IDs. The next tough thing actually, the ST transform. So the AusMaps data is an SF object, and it was missing some pieces. So SF objects are S4 objects. They're really dense, and different parts of working with them require that they have all the parts. So you'll see that line that says ST transform, that special code 3395, actually it's just a little bit in the next block above that, Anna. I can't annotate, yeah, that one there, that 3395 is a special number that says we're using Mercator projection of our map. And you need that in order for the GeomSF to work in the next block to create the choropleth map. All right, that's good, all done. Then there's only a couple more pieces that are important to get yourself to the final stage. So if we scroll down to the cartogram, we needed to join by name again, but we've got it all cleaned up and it was easy enough to extract that out of the Victorian population data because it's only Victorian LGA. I transformed the cases so it's now counts are per 10,000 people so that it's comparable in the LGAs. And that's what's colored in the cartogram. You could do that in the choropleth map. And then the cartogram function, cartogram cont is the function that does an optimization to match the area of the polygon with the population count that it's supposed to represent. And it'll converge at some point. And then in order to get the plot to work with Plotly, the cartogram would plot with that code, that's fine, but you'll see that there's a line of code that's stcast. If you want to make this a interactive cartogram, you need to do this, forcing the SF object to have a label that's called it's a multi-polygon. All right, that took just an hour to work out. It's always messy. And that last part is the hexagon map. We can just scroll down. There's nothing really special in the last part. You just need to use the sugar bag package. And there is one thing special. The sugar bag package expects the geographic coordinates to be in lat long, but the original geographic elements came in UTM form, which is some gigantic big integers. So I needed to transform the spatial coordinates into latitude and longitude to get the hexagon map to work. And so that's the ST transform again. And that code proj is the lat longs. And then it's pretty much create hex map with the sugar bag package. And it's a little bit complicated how the algorithm works, but just works straight up with that code and you can plot it. So how many special pieces were there? About 6 special things to remember. Anyway, that's all I want to say, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, wow, that was really interesting. I did work a bit with spatial data in Python, and yeah, I remember all these annoying conversions from one to the other one and then shifting, and yeah. Thank you.
It always takes me a lot longer than I expect. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Is there any questions for Di, or anyone has ever attempted spatial data in R?
Try my code.
Try this code. Now we have a tip. Now we know where to start. Well, I guess the messier thing was initially to make the data usable. Cool. Would you like to go?
Sure.
Cool.
Yep, so hi everyone. I'm Ku. I'm also a member of the R Ladies Committee. I'm a data engineer at the Australian Bureau of Statistics. So we get a lot of data sets in that are really big. And one of the first things we want to do is just have a look at some summary statistics. So yeah, my one is also using my tip. And it's just a really quick way of just like applying summary statistics. So I just used like the dummy data set cars. If you scroll down a bit, Anna, you can see that down here. So, if you scroll up a little bit. Yeah, so using per here in this chunk, basically it's kind of like the apply functions, but it just outputs it into a data frame. So in this case, I wanted to know the class. So I just wanted to see the types of each of the columns. I wanted to see the max length of like how many characters in each column, and then just missing. But you can obviously customize this to whatever you want. I just find the syntax is really easy because it's following that data frame syntax, and then the id.id argument there. I called it column name, but you can call it variable name or whatever you want. So yeah, and just it's really handy because because it spits out as a data frame, you can format it like a data frame. Like, so if you scroll down a bit there, Anna, so there it's just like a formatting for like a report. You can apply a cable extra to it. So it's a lot similar to like the apply functions, that apply family of functions. I just prefer it because it spits out data frames, which is easier to see in the console as well, rather than the list. So that's, yeah, up to you, personal preference. That's it.
Thank you, Cool. Thank you a lot. This is really useful. And I guess per is quite a topic. I mean, I could ask if anyone would like to share, anyone who hasn't shared their tip would like to share it, or I can sample more. I guess we have Adele, Alice, and Shazia.
I can go over mine. Mine is real simple and real brief. Everyone's got real serious suggestions, and then mine's just like this random thing that I saw on Twitter once. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's just a weird thing you can do that you never find in our studio. But if you just type TS and then Shift Tab, it just turns it into what the exact time of whenever you've written that. And it's just a weird little thing you can do in our studio. So sometimes when I forget to like time track, I'm just like, that's my quick and dirty way, is just to be like, oh, this is when I started writing and this is when I finished writing a script or something.
That's awesome. So it's like, yeah, the time, yeah, when you actually writing, yeah, so you can log yourself. Thank you. Well, I guess we can almost go with everyone there because we have 2 left, and there is Alice and Alice and Shaziam. Who would like to go?
I can go if you like. I'll do my
Yeah.
really quick, which is the Dropbox
Problem?
one. I love Chicago PD. That's the name of it. I don't know if anyone watches it. Yeah. I love the gift. So this is something again I found. I think it was on Twitter as well, which was different. So sometimes I get like files that are shared with me via Dropbox, and they're really big files that I don't want to kind of download onto my machine or keep them locally or have them hanging around. So I found this really neat tip where if you get the share from Dropbox link, and I've got an example link there. So if you click on it, nothing will happen because it's just like a hypothetical dummy link. But if you look at the end of the link and see how it has DL equals 0, if you just change that to DL, yeah, that's it. If you change that to DL equals 1, and then if you use the Room package in R, so Room like helps load your data really quickly into R in RStudio. If you use DL equals 1 at the end of your link, you'll be able to instantly like load your data straight into R without having to download it from Dropbox. So you don't even have to like store it locally or anywhere. You can just kind of pull it straight in. So yeah, something really quick, but I thought it was pretty neat because yeah, when you get shared files and you don't want to store them or even open them, right? Like they're really big, you don't want to have your computer churning through and opening them. You can just load them straight in. So hopefully someone finds it useful.
Yeah, that is so useful. So it's just changing so it's the same file, and then it's just like 1 and 0. And it just tells you, now you can download me.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like changing it from 0 to 1. So yeah, super quick. And there's some other really sports science stuff in there, but I don't know if anyone's using AMS. Okay.
Thank you a lot. Thank you a lot for sharing with us. And now we go with in theory, yeah, there was also Song and Shaziam. Yuri and
Oh yeah, sure, you can go, Yuri.
No.
Oh, okay. It's fine.
Yuri,
You can go first.
We have Shaziam.
All right. So I thought I'd share the Patchwork package, which I think is just really easy. It's an easy way to combine multiple plots in like a multi-panel figure for like a paper or a report. There's other sort of cowplot type packages as well, which are also super helpful. But yeah, so I guess here I'm just showing you the Patchwork. For some reason, GGWeHi didn't work, but I thought I would plug them anyways because that's quite a cool color palette that's been developed with the WeHi branding colors. So if anybody's from WeHi, feel free to use that. I also just plugged the Penguins data set because it's just super cool and cute to think about. Also through Twitter as well. So yeah, this is just a simple example. So I have just plot 1 and plot 2, which haven't showed up there. But you basically save them as objects. So you have plot 1 object and then plot 2 object. And then with Patchwork, you literally just say plot 1 plus plot 2, and then it puts them side by side, which you can see below. And you can, sorry, I don't know if you can maybe highlight that code. Yeah. And then there's several kind of features that you can add depending on what you want. So then there's the plot layout guides collect. So that moves all of the legends to the right side of the figure if you want that. I also specified the width, but I'm not sure if it worked correctly, but you can specify the width and the height if you'd like it to be a certain size. And then also then you do plus. So it's very similar to the ggplot syntax. You can do plot annotations. So what I've done here is each level of the panel, you put a lowercase a, and then I've also put a tag suffix, which is a parentheses. And so you can kind of configure that in the way that you need. It can be a capital A, you can drop the parentheses. And then the other example that I had here below is just plot1 / plot2, and that means put one over the other, which if you scroll down, Anna, you can see it. You can see it there. And then similar with the legends on the side. So yeah, that's I think that's super useful and also very accessible for people maybe just starting out in R as a way to start working with your plots. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you a lot, Shazia. Thank you. We're running just a few minutes over my planned schedule, but that's okay. I think we have the last Yuri, who was the last person who submitted. So I guess it will be nice to hear from you as well.
Yeah, maybe we just jump to the last section, which is data visualization, so I can go quickly through it. Yeah, thank you. So I'm Yuri. I'm a senior strategic analyst from Monash University. So primarily I'm doing data analytics, reporting, and also Shiny apps. So one thing that I come across when I visualize data is I always bothered about how things being labeled and how theme looks like. Because sometimes if we have way too many colors, way too many grays, it's actually interfering with the story we are delivering. So one example I use this to make is using the data population, which is available in the R packages. Just to looking a few countries as example, this is a basic R plot. Basically, everyone, when you start with ggplot, you should be able to get there fairly quickly. But there's a few issues with this plot. So first, we're looking at the population labeling. It's in scientific terms. It's easy to digest, but then sometimes when you look at that, hours by hours, you start losing track about how many zeros you're staring at. And then second thing is the chart is quite narrow. Basically, you can adjust the width and height by using the parameters in our markdown files. So then, can you scroll down a bit for the function called isi_number? Thank you. So what I found from online, especially with the annoying things I get from the numbering, is people start thinking about, we have many functions, for example, round, that you can round it up to a certain number of digits. And also we have other formatting functions. However, I was searching for a function that could easily display thousands, millions, billions, trillions, and things like that, and smart enough to rendering them by themselves, even in the same chart. Then there was a base function that I searched from Stack Overflow. It's actually quite basic. It's the skeleton of this particular function I'm using, but I find out the first one is they didn't really adapt to enable receiving any negative numbers. So the way that I added in is the second if function. When x is negative, we basically put a sign, which is negative, and then we find the absolute value of that. Else we just put a kind of empty thing there, and x is still equals to x. And then we find out how many zeros they're supposed to be. And based on the number of zeros, we basically split the numbers into a number of different characters. And then we find where we should put the full stop, basically the dot. And then the last step is basically we say 1 digit after that. So can you scroll a bit down to the si_vic? So si_vic is basically saying we apply the function to multiple things. So if we're looking into the example we have down there, just next code track, we'll be able to see what this does is several different things, including changing the titles, formattings, themes, also remove legend and adding text labels. But eventually the outcome, you can see the labeling. Yeah, just a little bit down there for the chart, please. Thank you. The next one. So this is the original, and the next one is the adjust. Probably I should use Shazia's trick about putting them next to each other. So comparing with the original one, you can see the millions, billions, and if you have tradings there, it will be automatically converted, leave 1 digit after the dot. And then the geom text label is actually also there by aligning to the left. So this has been added using geom text repo that's from GG repo package. And then you can adjust to the align with the left or right, and you can string wrap them as well. So just by improving the visualization a bit by changing the themes, if you want to change the color, that's also possible. If you want to change the text size and everything, it's actually give you a much clearer story there. And lastly, just to put it interactive, we just use the Plotly library to wrap it. And then one tip I will have it there is if you're looking at, if you're looking at the text labels of any dot points there, you will find out this is not really the original text which you have in the data frame. So the way I did it is the second line on the code track is mutate text of something. So you can use the si_vec function that we wrote above to wrap the populations. So when you do hover over, then the labeling will look nicer. And also you can adjust the width and height. That's everything. Thank you, Anna.
Thanks to you. Thank you a lot. Yeah, we have a lot of big mixture of like per, this, a lot of different tips. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with all of these ones. So thank you so much again to everyone who submitted and for your time to share it as well tonight, which is a lovely summer evening. My plan now would be maybe we can take a picture all together. So I will. One thing, yeah, we haven't touched, but it would be good to also discuss. So we got one submission for an R question. So when we shared the link to share tips, we also asked the people if they wanted, they had some questions that we could have discussed on the night. And one of the questions was what's your best practice for an R project folder directory structure? So we shared it on Twitter. I mean, my answer was I've used Workflow R in the past to already plan it for me, and then I go with it, or I change the structure that Workflow R plans for me. But does anyone else would like to add something or other tips that people have used or how they normally structure it?
I've been using Workflow R quite a lot lately. I find it convenient because I'm very lazy. I'm like, there, it's set everything up for me. I don't have to think about it. Sometimes though, when I'm publishing the R Markdown analysis files, it takes forever because I've got a lot of data and has to think about it, and it's a bit of a struggle. So,
is there a way that
sometimes?
Sorry.
I end up like having to basically save stuff to RDS because it doesn't play nicely with the caching. But I think that's just a general R Markdown problem rather than Workflow R. I think it's just I've got too much data there, and I'm not doing something sensible with it. But yeah, I like it. It just has some issues sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe some caching might help, but I don't know if that might be the solution every time.
No. Okay, I've tried caching. I've given up on caching. It saves stuff to RDS as an intermediate sort of thing.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. Anyone else have used alternative way or want to say how they normally would go about it? No. Well, I guess it is not a taker. I guess we have two Workflow R user, and yes, I said I've used it a couple of times, and it also is nice because it allows you to directly create a website from your project directory, so you can navigate quite neatly through it. So maybe, yeah, give it a go, and that might be.
It also automatically sticks session info at the end of your document, which is useful because I had someone contact me recently, and they're like, "Oh, can you write up the methods for the section of my thesis?" And I was like, "Cool," and then I could just because I hadn't even thought to document it. The workflow R had documented that, so I can be like, here are the exact versions of all the tools that I used, which are a thing that I'm like, I should always document that, but workflow R just does it for you, because I'm like, I don't think about it, and it's just nice to be able to go.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, it's pretty
just
handy.
to quickly add on top of that, I've also used workflow R a couple of times, like ages ago when it came out first. And I remember the reason that I didn't continue with that at the time was that it was actually publishing things publicly at the end on the GitHub. I'm sure there will be ways to actually deal with the privacy of it, but at the time I was just like in rush. I just stopped using it. But I won't say that you shouldn't use it. I think that would be a good package to work with, definitely.
I don't think you have to push it to GitHub. Like I just use it locally. I don't push it to, well, we've got a server that I host the documents on, so yeah.
I haven't used it much, so I definitely trust you on that.
Yeah, what I don't know, maybe I don't know if I could have a private repository to do it, but yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it could have also worked in that way.
Yeah, you can also use it with GitLab. It's not just GitHub, but like they allow you to use other things. But yeah, I think it's a bit of work to get it going.
Okay. Well, thank you for the discussion, and yeah, I will still try just for fun. And we had some prizes that we wanted to give to people who were going to submit and present their work. Well, it turns out that a lot of the people that submitted are from the committee as well. So we all already have a pair of earrings. And Alice, who didn't get a pair of earrings, but she was a speaker, so she's due a pair already. So I guess we are left, but of course, and I was planning on drafting winners. So my plan was, I'm still gonna draft. The only submission that was from a member that we haven't interacted with was Zina. And even though they haven't come and share they haven't come and shared their tip with all of us, they still shared their tip. They still submitted their tip. So I would like to give them a prize anyway. So I might try to get in contact later in case they prefer either pair of earrings, but we also have readings vouchers in case you don't wear earrings. And I would still, so Zainab definitely is a winner. And if I could, I also wanted to sample another winner from the people who have shared it and to see who is the lucky one. Amy is entitled to, does Amy already have earrings or no? No. Well, you can choose. You can choose if either you will like earrings or readings voucher, and let me know and we will provide that for you. I mean, earrings might be hard to send to Sydney. Oh, it's not gonna be hard. It's just they need to. Oh no, you're in Melbourne. You're in Melbourne. You're in Melbourne. Yeah.
We will meet up one day.
I guess I haven't met you in Melbourne yet, so I still think, yeah, you're in Melbourne. So that's easy. Yeah. So congratulations to the two winners, Zainab and Amy. Cheers and happy birthday to everyone. Hope we can see each other live next month.